the council and the University of Richmond talking about the program. This is the 12th year or 12th session that they've had. And the first session on the 9th, because it meets twice a week, so it's 3 hours on Tuesday night, 3 hours on Thursday night, was increasing your communication effectiveness. And the professor had us do the DISC profile, which I've done before, but I love all the personality studies. And we did it very early in the program so we could learn how to effectively interact with people in general, the other individuals in the cohort, and it's going to help us as we continue to move forward, plus to identify our style as well. Then this Tuesday of this week, we did strategic thinking. That was part 1 with Douglas Bose, I think is his last name, which was really phenomenal. So we're working on our strategic plan. And we meet tonight and we're going to be talking about what story are your financials telling us. So it's a very comprehensive program. We've got 18 people in the cohort that are, getting to know each other. I think there are 3 others in a food-related business. Then I would think I'm the 4th, and everyone else is from different aspects. But it's a great cohort. We do a lot of breakout sessions, getting to know each other, working through information, and the instructors, the professors that we've had so far are phenomenal. So I'm really excited about it and looking to just enjoy the experience and to move my business to a new level as we go through all these different facets of scaling, performance metrics, bringing your brand to the digital market, crisis management, access to capital, getting clarity about financial measurements, negotiating for long-term success. And then we wrap up with graduation on November 4th.
Wow, that's great. You'll learn and continue to keep up with the cohorts. It's amazing to see how you all grow together.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, exciting. Well, I think we are right at the time. Before, Alka, do you want to take a minute to say who you are and what your company does before we start? I think you're
okay. Yes. Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for this opportunity. I joined in late, so I missed the first 15-20 minutes of the meeting. Sorry about that.
It's just networking time. We're good.
Okay. Thank you, Anna, for giving me this opportunity to share. So my name is Alka Manyapu. I'm from Datasoft Technologies. We are based out of Greenville, South Carolina. We are into talent acquisition and staff augmentation for IT engineering and professional services. So corporations hire us when they need niche talent for their projects and solutions. We are, been in business for 25 years now, and happy to be here this morning. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I'm sorry. We see Alka, and thanks for the intro. There's several others on the line too. If anybody else wants to take a moment before we give the floor to Bobby, this is a good time. Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. This is Asia Anderson. I am a project manager with Brownstone. We are a project management and architectural firm based out of Columbia, South Carolina. Dale Collier started the business in 2005 and has been very successful, specifically in the K through 12 realm. But we are also currently working with Turner Construction down in Charleston at the African American Museum. But just wanted to quickly introduce ourselves before we got started. I'm sorry, I've been on the run. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you for being on the call this morning. And we've got Bobby Robinson, who's going to tell us more. We just heard about his exciting course that he started, and he's going to dive into it a little bit more about his company and what he does, and can't wait to hear about the course too. So I'm going to give that floor to you there, Bobby. Or the
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited. I feel like I'm back home again. So for those that have not met me previously, my name is Bobby Robinson. I'm a partner at Next and Pruitt. But before I became a partner at Next and Pruitt, I too was an MBE. And that's how I got introduced to the organization. And so I'm really excited to be back. I never left, right? But really excited to be back. And one of the first things I did when I joined Next and Pruitt was to get them to join CBMSDC as a corporate partner. I felt very strongly about the organization, its mission, its values, and it was important for me to make sure that they were a part of it as well. And so I'm really excited to be here. So today, we're going to talk about intellectual property. We're going to talk about intellectual property. Every small business, regardless of where you are on the spectrum, should be very intentional about protecting your IP. So I'm going to share my screen. You guys let me know if you can see my screen.
yes,
You can see it?
yes.
All right. So let's go ahead and jump in. So just additional context. So my practice really focuses on two areas, so corporate and IP law. So I support small businesses up to middle market companies, helping them think through a variety of corporate and IP issues from business formation, contracts, trademarks, and copyrights, and we'll talk about that today. I do a lot of corporate M&A, helping folks buy and sell businesses. And then I also work with a lot of athletes and social media campaigns. So FTC social media endorsement compliance is a big part of what I do. And then I'm fortunate to be highly recommended by my peers in 2019 and 2021 as a legal elite in the area of corporate law. So of course, this is a legal disclaimer. I can't do it without it. So this is just for informational purposes only. Certainly doesn't constitute or establish an attorney-client relationship. But if you had any questions on the content, feel free to reach out to me or an attorney in your network. So we're going to cover a couple of things today. I think it's important to give you an overview of what IP is. And then we'll drill into specifically two forms of intellectual property, which are trademarks and copyrights. And then we'll also talk about why it's important to avoid violating IP rights of third parties. So with regards to IP, Bill Gates says intellectual property is what makes the world go round. Everything that we interact with today with regards to brand differentiation is really predicated upon the strength of the brand. But many of these brands can't be as strong as they are today without intellectual property protection. So whether it's an iPhone with over 200 patents, whether it's Louis Vuitton that owns over 18,000 intellectual property assets from patents to design copyrights to copyrights with regards to their lettering and colors and so forth, or Prince owning all of the masters to his songs, which are copywritten material, the distinction in the marketplace is going to be critical to your ability to scale as a business. Because if there's no brand differentiation between you and your competition, then your clients, your consumers will not be able to distinguish your products and services from your competition. And so I always like to tell clients, it's great to have a great strategy. It's great to have a great website. It's fantastic to have all of business coaches and all of that, but none of it matters if your brand is not protected. And so it's really important that as you scale, as you think about strategy, you have to be cognizant of what IP do I have, and then how can I go about protecting it? So I always like to start out with what is IP? So IP is just that. It's your intellectual genius that generally starts out as an idea. So we all had a business idea. We created a product or a service. We did market analysis to determine whether or not our product or service was different from our competition and how it was different. And we created our own secret sauce, right? Most times it starts intangible, but then it can manifest itself into a tangible product or the execution of a service. The beautiful part about intellectual property, assuming it qualifies as IP, is that it gives you the exclusive rights to use it. And what that basically means is if anyone wants to use your IP, they would either have to license it from you or give permission to use it. This is also important because as folks continue to register brands, registration agencies such as the USPTO's office won't allow them to register that brand because you already own that brand. And that's very important. And when I talk registration, you could register IP on a variety of different levels depending on how you're trying to scale your business. So if you're just a local shop in terms of just doing business in your state, you may just want to consider a state trademark. But if you're looking to expand into other states, you may want to consider a federal trademark. And of course, if you want to do business globally, you may want to then also consider international registrations, and we do quite a bit of those as well. So it's very important to kind of keep the big picture in mind. So what are the benefits? The benefits is from an offensive perspective, you get to start to prevent others from using it. And one of the things that I do every day, I probably send, maybe 50 plus cease and desist letters a month. So a lot of it is really how do you protect your brand from others who may want to impede on it. Brand value or brand dilution is a real thing. You have brands that I know that I represent that spend hundreds of millions of dollars to protect their brand, and they're very aggressive about it. So but the only way they can do that is if they actually register it. The other way defensively is if someone is trying to prevent you from doing something. That is important defensively in terms of how do you protect your brand. Oh, sorry. Are you guys hearing an echo?
No, Bobby.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to spend a couple of minutes here just to give you some context. And feel free, I'm not sure if we're going to, I guess we'll take questions at the end because I know I'm fairly limited on time. So there are 5 types of intellectual property. So as budding businesses, emerging businesses, you have to be mindful about the type of content that you're creating and then figuring out from that point on, how do you protect it? So I'll start from left to right. So you first have copyrights. So copyrights are what we know as tangible creative expression. So an example of a copyright would be a song, a photo, a blog, a presentation, anything that you put your creative thought to and then you memorialized it in some fashion. Now, what's not allowed if you have copywritten material is what we know as the unauthorized copying or the creation of derivative works. So an example of a derivative work is if I am an author and I wrote a book, a movie based on my book would be a derivative work. And I would have to give permission to that film director or the person who wants to make that movie based on my book, permission to do so. Copyrights last a very long time. They last the life of the author plus 70 years. The thing that's important to know about copyrights is that the moment you create the copywritten material, so some of my clients who are coaches or my clients who operate schools, they create curriculum, that is copywritten material and it is protected by copyright the moment that it's created. But if you want to sue someone for copyright infringement, it has to be registered. So we always want to make sure we register our copyrights. The second thing is trademarks. Trademarks are also what we refer to as our commercial identifier. So you guys know what these are. These are your logos. These are your slogans. These are your hashtags. These are the ESPN chime, the NBC chime, things that the moment you see it or you hear it, you automatically identify the brand with it. And that's what you want. When folks see your brand, they automatically know, yep, that's CBMSCC. Yep, that's Anna's company, right? So you want to make sure that your commercial identifier is very, very clear. What's not allowed is what we know as creating a confusingly similar mark. And I must say, I represent a lot of small businesses, and a lot of them are very excited to go to market, but they fail to do their homework in terms of whether there's an existing brand out there before they establish their brand. And what happens is they spend a lot of money on beautiful websites, logos, business cards, all the great things, uniforms, and so forth, and only to get hit with a cease and desist letter because they didn't do their homework on the front end. And now the person who has that protected brand is coming after them aggressively. And unfortunately, what tends to happen is they have to rebrand the company, right? So trademarks are very powerful. If you notice, everyone's kind of getting a trademark now because I think most folks are starting to realize how important it is to get a trademark. Trademarks can last as long as you're still using them in commerce. So basically, as long as you're still using it and you are renewing the documents accordingly, then you'll have a valid trademark. And then, of course, you'll register it, but registration is not required to sue someone. Next thing you have is patents. Everyone knows patents. There are two types of patents. There's like a design patent or a utility patent. If you guys were part of BOC, we had a panel on patents and we talked very extensively about patents. Patents last for about 20 years. So you'll see this a lot in the pharmaceutical space. You'll have one drug, and then once that patent expires, you'll start to see all these generic drugs come on the market. So you'll have exclusivity for 20 years with patents, and then registration is certainly required. Trade secrets, you don't hear a lot about trade secrets, but you probably know of two famous trade secrets, the KFC recipe and the Coca-Cola recipe. If you notice, they're both recipes, and it's very valuable information that you don't want your competitors to know. So Coke doesn't want Pepsi to know about their recipe. KFC doesn't want, Chick-fil-A or anybody else to know about their recipe. And so it's important that we keep this information under wraps and undisclosed. And so it's certainly one of those things we do is, make sure folks sign non-disclosures and make sure whoever has that information is on a need-to-know basis. And this is very important for my clients who work with co-packaging. Co-packagers, of course, may create similar competitive products to yours. And so it's very important we scrutinize the confidentiality language in those co-packaging agreements for that very reason. And then the last thing is right of publicity. Many of you are probably, if you follow college sports, recently the NCAA now allows college athletes to monetize their name. And what they're really talking about is right of publicity, also known as name, image, and likeness. And it is the unauthorized use of someone's likeness or name. This is it's a state-specific right. So North Carolina's right of publicity is very different from South Carolina. But for the legal nerds out there like me, this really just derived out of your right of privacy, So it's basically saying no one should be able to monetize your private right in terms of how you look, what your name is, without your permission. So those are your 5 types of intellectual property. And you may have, in a certain product or service that you offer, you may have more than one. So for my clients who are a coach, or coaches rather, they may copyright their content, but then trademark the name of the course. So when you're talking to someone like myself, I'm looking at all 5 of these to make sure we don't miss anything. So I'm going to go really quickly. I know I spent more time on that slide than I wanted to, but I thought it was necessary. So let's really quickly just talk about trademarks. So what can be trademarked? Again, trademark a name, a phrase, color. So Tiffany has trademarked that color blue. Coca-Cola has trademarked the shape of the Coca-Cola glass bottle. It is, again, a commercial identifier. So when we see that bottle, we automatically associate it with Coca-Cola. We don't even need to see the brand name itself. And so it's very important that if you're offering a product or a service, you think about what's going to create that brand differentiation for you and how do you protect it. One of the things that you also as a business owner need to be mindful of is trademark infringement. And I'm not going to argue if you've seen Coming to America, which one's better. I still like number 1, although number 2 was funny. But likelihood of confusion is the standard to determine whether or not your brand is infringing on someone else's brand. And again, it's very important before you start a business, before you launch a new product, before you launch a new service, that you do your homework before you spend the money on executing on that thing, whatever it is, because we got to make sure that there's no likelihood of confusion. I had an unfortunate situation just this week at a young Black tech company who raised about almost $1 million, only to find out that someone already had that name. And we may have to do a rebrand. We may have to, because they didn't do their homework before they got started. Great business, but the name is very problematic. So it's very important you do that. All right, copyrights, really quickly. This is very important for those of you who are certainly hiring a lot of, freelancers and other people to create content on your behalf, whether it be a graphic designer, a website designer, so forth, a photographer. Just keep in mind, again, with regards to copyrights, whoever creates the thing owns it, right? So if I take that picture, I own that picture, even though you hired me to do that. So that's the general rule. The exception to that is twofold, right? So if you're an employer, if you hire someone to do something and they create some copywritten material and they do it within the scope of their employment, meaning that that's what they were hired to do, then you own that content. But if they create it outside of the scope of employment, then that means they own it. If they're an independent contractor, they won't own it unless in your independent contractor agreement, you have what we know as work for hire language. That basically says, look, I'm commissioning you to do this work. In exchange for me paying you, you will transfer all right entitled to this work to me. It's very important that you have that language in your contracts. Otherwise, that person who created the work can then either keep you from using it or issue you a license to use it. And that's very important. Very similar to trademark infringement. Again, you cannot infringe on someone's copyright without their permission. And then there's this thing called fair use. And that basically means that if I'm not commercializing it, if I'm only using it for educational purposes, then I don't need permission. So you certainly want to make sure if you are intending to use someone else's intellectual property, that you make sure it may qualify as fair use. So here are some ways you can address your IP ownership. In your employment agreements, make sure you have a provision that speaks to IP. If you're hiring a consultant and they're doing work and they're creating IP, make sure that's in there. Supplier, if you're in a joint venture, there are a lot of JV deals, even in construction or consulting or whatever the deal is. If there's a slight indication that IP could potentially be created or established, then we want to address it, and certainly in licensing agreements. And then you also want to educate your employees, right? Because guess what? Regardless if you know the right thing to do and your employees don't know, the company is sued, you're ultimately liable anyway. So it's important and incumbent upon you as the leaders of the organization to educate your employees on the importance of IP, how it's created, how to identify it, and then more importantly, how to respect others' IP. So again, had another issue last week. I represent a big agency out of New York. They do a lot of ad campaigns for Budweiser and a bunch of other big brands. One of the newer employees took some content from a site that he shouldn't have. And as you know, with technology, you can reverse engineer images and see who owns the image. And it was a fairly larger brand where those images were taken without permission, and they were hit with a cease and desist letter to stop using that. And that was just predicated on an employee who was working on the project. So it's very important that not just that you understand what the IP considerations are, but that your team also understands what they are. That is all I have. Here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions with regards to trademarks or copyrights. I do not do patent law, but my firm does. So if you have a patent question, I'm happy to put you in contact with one of my peers. I will stop sharing my screen and then we can continue. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Anna, you're muted.
Yes. Hey, Bobby.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Hey, man, great presentation. But I did have a question. Where does software fit in there?
Really good question. So software.
And the specific question is, I work outside of work. I work with a tech startup that's out of Raleigh. And these kids basically created this incredible software. And there was worry about copywriting it because I guess you copyright software, but
you would.
It would become an open book to our competitors, and people would look to try to engineer around it just so that basically it would be kind of wouldn't violate any type of copyright laws. And so, how do you deal with software?
That's a case-by-case scenario, right? So because technology is moving so rapidly, the registration of software is certainly predicated upon the proprietary nature of it. Depending on, again, if it's open source, it wouldn't benefit us very much if it's open source tech and folks can stack on it, right? So it has to be a very proprietary element of the code. If not, it doesn't make much sense to file a copyright for the code for that very reason. Again, primarily too, because tech is moving so quickly. By the time we register it, there's new tech, it's obsolete. No one really benefits from it other than to say, here are the wireframes that we have that we protected in the event, something happened down the road. So we do have to, certainly to your point, make an analysis of whether or not it's even worth registering, because to your point, anything you register, whether it's your business formation, your copyright, your trademark, it's all in a federal database or state database. So it now becomes public record for anyone that is savvy enough to know where to go find it.
Yeah, next question.
I hope that answers your question.
Well, Bobby, I actually have a question to that. You mentioned that, there was an issue with someone having the similar name. What are some sites or what are some resources that someone can go towards in regards to that homework? Are there any resources available for us to research on, websites in particular?
Yeah, So from a trademark perspective, there's the uspto.gov, uspto.gov. You always want to go there to check to see whether there are any existing trademarks. I would also, I'm just going to give you my process. So when I do, whether it be business formation, we check with the Secretary of State. Secretary of State's offices also manage state trademarks. So every state has a state trademark database. So we check that as well. And then we go to USPTO to check on a federal level. And then oftentimes it's also good just to do a Google search just to see what's out there as well. And with regards to trademarks, we tend to order comprehensive trademark searches as part of our process, just to make sure we're capturing as much information as possible before we proceed with the filing.
Okay, Bob, you have a few questions in the chat. And I'll just go down the list that might be helpful.
Thank you.
People have their hands raised. So I'll start with Ken Pulliam.
Yeah, I've already asked a question.
Okay, next we have Stephen Mitchell.
Hey, Bobby, thanks for the presentation. A couple questions. One, on the copyright piece, since you mentioned that you naturally have copyright if you created it, but you cannot file suit if someone infringes upon it if it's not registered. In a scenario like that, is there a likelihood that you can still win a case because it is yours, and does not registering it just make it harder to win that case? Or is it impossible to win the case because it's not registered? And then I have a follow-up.
Yeah, really good question. So you have at least 12 months upon discovery of infringement to register. And so that wouldn't certainly impede your ability to file suit. And registration normally takes a couple of months. So I always advocate for my clients to, upon creation of the thing, to just get it registered. And it's a fairly inexpensive process. It's like $65 to register a trademark. So, and it's a one-page document. It's a fairly simple process to do.
Got it. And then secondarily, kind of to the larger point you just made, I've always struggled being an entrepreneur with, when to hire a lawyer to create a document versus trying to create it myself. And for a group like yours, do you guys work with clients to try to find sort of an in-between space? Because I know, a lot of times lawyers are upwards of $400, and it's probably worth every penny. But an entrepreneur's budget is probably tight. So, is there ever an in-between where your group can take a document and edit it, and you end up saving some money as an entrepreneur, or is it really just inadvisable, and you think folks should just work with a professional from the outset and invest the larger dollars?
Yeah, so I think you could do both, right? I would highly encourage, certainly, you retain an attorney early, even if it's just an initial consultation, to make sure your foundation is set. But so you may have missed the fact that, so I was an MBE at a pretty scalable law firm prior to joining Nexen Pruitt, and part of my business model was flat fee. So a lot of my pricing is for that very reason, to meet small businesses at a place that works for them from a budgetary perspective. And most of my clients, I'd say a good majority of them, I'm usually the first attorney they've ever worked with. So it's very important for me that I give you something that works for you. And then oftentimes we'll have to just sort of do the surgical approach of just kind of lasering in on the stuff that's most important, and we'll come back to the other things when we need to.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
It looks like Chef Maria.
Yes, Bobby, thank you. This was an excellent presentation, and a couple of these things are on my to-do list. You mentioned the DIY course for the trademark when we first started. Is there a link to that? Is that separate is there a separate link for that? So I can.
It is, and I just dropped it in the chat. So there you have it.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. That was great. I think we learned a lot today from you, Bobby, and we'll be reaching out for additional questions. We've also got Kim Gardner and James Hamlin, who are president and co-chair, vice president of the Metrolina Ring. And I'm going to let Kim speak a little bit more about Metrolina Ring and any council updates do we have from the CVMSDC team?
So,
well, good morning, everyone. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Kim.
No, I was just going to say good morning to everyone. My name is Kim Gardner, chair of the Metrolina Ring. I also work with Turner Construction Company. Thank you to any new members that joined us this month. The Metrolina Ring is meant to just create a network, part of the CVMSDC for the local Charlotte metropolitan area. So welcome.
Wonderful, thank you. James, would you also introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, everyone. James Hamlin, co-chair of the Metrolina Ring. I just want to introduce myself. I work at American Tire Distributors, lead the supplier diversity program there. So great information, obviously, Bobby, for our MBEs, and looking forward to any potential future partnerships that we can have. Feel free to get in contact with us if you have any questions.
Excellent, great. Thank you so much. And now an update from the CVMSDC.
Okay, well, I'll start, and I'm losing my voice. But before I start, Bobby, I had a quick question. Can somebody take a picture of you or your house and use that as art without your permission? Can you hear me, Bobby?
Can you repeat that? It was going out.
Huh?
Can you repeat it?
Can't hear me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, I said, can somebody take a picture of you or your house and use it as art without your permission?
That's a complicated question. It depends. Depends.
Okay.
We'll have to talk about that one. I could be here all day on that one.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that one-on-one. That was somebody did take a picture of my house and it became a major piece of art. And I was like, wait a minute, I didn't get any part of that. So anyway, okay. I'll jump into updates from the council. Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody who attended BOC. It was a huge success. And I want to have you to save the date for November the 8th and 9th for our upcoming MBE Summit. It's going to be quite a different format, and we're going to have the MBE to MBE Connect that we've had in September. We'll have one in October, but the November MBE to MBE Connect will be at MBE Summit. We're going to have what we're calling CORE, which is going to replace our matchmaking, and it will allow you to hear from 12 to 16 different companies about opportunities, and we're breaking it down by industry. So you'll have manufacturing, healthcare, retail, government, I think banking, I'm not sure, but Greg can back me up on that. But we'll have 5 different industries and 3 to 5 different panelists on each industry panel to share with you how to do business with their organization. So you could essentially hear from 12 to 16 different companies talking about how you can do business with them. So I encourage you to apply early, register early when registration opens in October, and just save the date, November 8th and 9th for that event. So with that is the major announcement that I have in terms of events. I'm going to turn it to Greg for any corporate updates. Greg?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Dominique. I had to take myself off mute. So wanted to make sure that you all knew we have a new our newest corporate partner is a company called Santee Cooper. They are out of South Carolina. They are a utility company within South Carolina. And one of the reasons I want to make sure that you're aware of this opportunity, well, one, we want to make sure that you know of every new corporate partner we bring in anyway. But they also have coming up on November the 4th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. They're doing their inaugural supplier diversity conference. So they're still working out the details. As a matter of fact, that's something that Dominique and I are kind of helping them with. But on November the 4th, between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m., they will have their inaugural supplier diversity conference. And they look like they're serious about having some significant opportunities. So make sure you have that booked, and there'll be more detail. Make sure you look at our newsletter, and as we get more information, we'll make sure that we get that published. So that's where we are, and I'll keep you apprised of any other new companies that we bring about.
All right. Thank you. To Margilette. Margilette, are you on?
She's not on.
Okay. You have any updates, Katrina?
No, I don't have any updates. I just want to tell Bobby that was a really good presentation and good information.
Excellent. All right. Is Debbie? I see you, Debbie. You have any updates?
Good morning to everyone. Bobby, great presentation. I had the honor of working behind the scenes at BOC on your workshop, and it was fantastic. So this is just another follow-up, great information for everyone. I don't really have any updates, just a reminder that the newsletter now comes out on Monday mornings and Mondays only. So we've moved from 3 times a week to once a week, and would encourage any of the certified MBEs on the line to sign up for your virtual capabilities briefing, which is your one-to-many opportunity to present your business for 30 minutes to your peers and our corporate partners. If you're at all interested, please just send me an email. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Debbie. And we'll close with developmental opportunities. Again, I said at the beginning of the call when we were in the 8 o'clock hour that we have the Sunoco class, which is going to launch in November. Please register or apply for that if you have not already. And we just received some new scholarships for Tuck for this year. So if you have gone to the Sunoco program, gone to the University of Richmond program, and you're ready for Tuck, just send me an email. I'm going to be taking applications for the Tuck program for next year. Thank you so much. Back to you, Kim.
Well, again, thank you, Bobby, so much for presenting today. I appreciate you visiting our ring meeting and sharing information about intellectual property and protecting our work. Thank you so much. At this point, we like to open it up to anyone that would like to share a success story, something that has happened in the last couple months that has boosted your business, whether that's landing a new client, closing a deal, anything that you think is worth sharing.
I would like to share. My company, Clinicians Advocacy Group, have been working diligently for almost 9 months with the North Carolina Realtors Association, which represents about 10,000 realtors and their families. They have decided to choose my company over GoodRx for our discount drug program and card, and that is really exciting. So we signed the contract a month ago, and they're going to be implementing it, rolling it out here the next couple weeks. Yeah.
Yay. Great, Leslie.
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations, Leslie.
Congratulations, that's great.
Congratulations, that's awesome. I'll share. I first met ATD in, I think it was this ring meeting back in May, and we had ongoing conversations, which immediately turned into booking the private virtual baking experience, which was held at Michael Kuhn's house. And James Hamlin and I had worked together pretty closely throughout that time to get all the details finalized. And the event happened, I think it was August 20th. and there's pictures all over social media, and they had an amazing time. So that was really exciting. And we have a lot of other things we're working on together that we'll share at another time, but it was a great opportunity to establish a relationship and to keep moving forward. And I'll let James share or add on if he so chooses, but I'm really excited about that.
That's good.
Great.
Good job.
The brownie.
Awesome. Awesome.
All I will just share at this time, and Chef Maria, you and I obviously have some things to discuss a little bit later this week, but we're working on a scholarship program, and Chef Maria is going to be the first recipient for the ATD scholarship program. She's already started with the University of Richmond, and we are really excited to have her as our first scholarship. To receive our first scholarship, and it's something that we're going to continue to do every year. So we're really excited about that.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, this was great, everyone. Really enjoyed seeing everybody this morning and hearing all the wonderful stories. And Bobby, once again, great presentation. Now, this is recorded, so we will be able to log in, or is it primarily through the CVMSDC that we look at all these different recordings, Dominique? Yes.
Yeah, they should live on our website. Like,
Okay.
Debbie, you want to correct me? I think that
They do live on the website specific to the Ring. So on your Ring page within 48 hours, and also on our YouTube channel, you can catch any and all of the recordings from each of the Rings.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining today. And this is how we continue. We're slowly transitioning. I want everybody to continue to stay safe, and so good seeing you guys. But it was wonderful, actually. I saw a few of you over at the BMW conference, and it was great. It's good to, reconnect and see some smiles, hugs, some pump fists. So. Yeah, we're slowly getting back into that world again, but I'm really proud to hear all the wonderful stories and continue to keep working hard and connecting with everyone. So have a wonderful rest of the week, guys.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
everybody
you.
have a good
Thank
week.
you.
Stay safe.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby.